And thank you everyone for joining today. Again, as Corey mentioned, my name is Richie Kenney. I am the Director of Conference Services for the University of Miami, down here in Miami, Florida. And as Corey also mentioned, back in March, I ran an intro session on what it means to start and build an intern housing program. So in theory, this is a continuation of that program. Assuming we all spent the summer building out that platform and developing that program so that we can launch it for summer 22. But if you have a current program, we are going to ask some questions about your current size and how many interns you tend to host. And then we also are going to cover sales tactics for a hypothetical institution that may or may not be in South Florida. And we'll kind of go from there. So, Corey, do you want to kick off with that first poll?
Yep, I'm going to send that out right now. There's 5 questions. Feel free to respond. No right or wrong answers. So here we go. So Richie, as we wait for this, so can remind us of what University of Miami did this past summer for intern housing. Were you able to host anyone, or was this a year off, the second year in a row off for you?
Yeah, so unfortunately it was second year in a row off. We were not able to host any overnight guests external of the university. So that meant our summer was highly focused on University of Miami students for summer housing, and then summer programs, because we are the Office of Conference Services. We managed daytime programs for youth groups and kids camps and different conferences that may have stayed externally off campus at a local hotel. And, you know, the institution decided to not have that overnight component because at that point, the vaccine rollout hadn't been widely done. Testing was going to be very complicated, and it likely would have cost us more out of pocket than we would have taken in order to run those summer programs. But for those of you that are on the call that got to host summer groups overnight and intern housing programs, I'm jealous. I miss it. And we look forward to hosting this coming summer.
And we're still getting some poll results here. Richie, can you see the results, or do you need me to?
I can, yeah. Okay. So it looks like it's almost a 50-50 split on whether or not folks were able to host their interns this summer. So that's encouraging. Let's see what else we have. All right, good number of folks on here, on average, are new to the intern housing program and game. Looks like we have one on the call that has more than 150 interns each summer. That's awesome. But it looks like the majority are sitting in that 50 or less range. So definitely going to walk away here today with some solid tips on how we can help improve those numbers, should that be something that you all want to do, and I'll explain why here in the coming slides. But yeah, these are solid numbers.
And I think
it looks like April, May is that major time period for receiving the most interest, which is good. We'll talk a little bit about some of the pre-work that you can do to help drive that up.
I think what's interesting, Richie, is 2 respondents said that they actually hosted more interns in 2021 than they, had previously, which is another good sign and kind of one of those diamonds in the rough. You don't really hear about that as often as it's reflected in the poll results.
Exactly.
And we just got a question, Richie, from Hannah Flake at Flagler College. Hannah asked, being incredibly green to housing and in the collegiate sense, can you define interns?
Yes, of course. That's a great question, Hannah. So when I say interns or intern housing, what I'm referring to is any student that may or may not be a part of your direct institution. So, Hannah, Corey just mentioned you're at Flagler. So they could be a student at the University of Florida, University of Minnesota, anywhere, but coming to that St. Augustine area for either an internship, a research position, a clerkship with the lawyer's office. Some folks will even take individuals with just summer jobs that may not be defined as an internship, more or less. But typically what we're talking about is students coming to a new area that's not defined as their home or their local institution, that want to stay on campus during the summer months. Some programs can actually host them all year round if you have some vacancies in your beds during the academic year. But what we're predominantly looking at is summer months. Hopefully that helps answer that for you, Hannah. Right. So while Corey is wrapping up that poll, let's go ahead and share my screen. So you should be able to see my title screen here. And again, the title is how to attract your ideal client and fill those unused accommodations that we have on campus during the summer months. Now, as mentioned, we are going to talk about sales and marketing tactics, but I do want to cover a little bit, if my computer will work, there we go, on why you want to host interns if you don't already have a program. So for those of us that offer camps and conference housing, particularly during the summer months, you'll see my handy equation here. In order to make $252,000 for summer housing with conference groups or youth camps, you would have to host 28 different groups with 100 participants each on an average of 3 nights for their stay. And assuming that your rate is $30 a night, that would give you $252,000 in revenue. Now, what that doesn't show you is the room turnovers and the cleaning costs, the staffing costs for check-in and check-out, your lost keys, whether that be access cards or physical keys, the back and forth on the emails and the room changes and all the other good stuff that you have going on with each group. And not to mention, it's a lot of work during the academic year. So one way to help keep all of that workload a little bit less for you all is to host interns during the summer months. So in order to make that same amount of revenue, you just have to host 100 students. The average stay for a summer intern is that 84 nights. That's about 10 weeks. No, I'm sorry, 9 weeks. Nope, math was never my strong suit. So that's 12 weeks. So 12 weeks worth of overnight housing. And these are students that are leaving during the day to go work somewhere else. So they're really only staying with you at night. And so what does that mean? It means less turnover of rooms. So your housekeeping teams are happier. They're not having to flip that same room over and over and over. If you provide these interns with linens, you're not having to wash them over and over. And because they're leaving campus during the day or going elsewhere, you don't have to find those additional space needs that conference groups often ask for. You don't have to find those classrooms. those lecture halls, figure out the dining time frames when they can go to the dining hall, because you have 15 different groups all wanted to go at the same time. And so it generally takes a load off of your group, whether it is a housing department that's looking to fill those overnight accommodations, or like myself and my team, the Office of Conference Services that helps accommodate intern housing. So that's a little bit as to why you want to host interns or research assistants if you don't already. And oftentimes colleges think about volume and how many people are we affecting? How many people are we providing this experience for? Well, now you can flip that on its head and start thinking revenue based. So the return on the revenue and the return on investment is going to be greater by hosting interns than it will be hosting camps and conferences. Now, all that to say, should you get rid of your camp and conference program? No, absolutely not. This is a supplemental program that can help provide balance to a campus if you have a youth group heavy platform already and you need to fill some apartment style beds, or if you're looking for a little bit more equality between programs and overnight stays. This is a great way to add that. Back in March, I showed everyone this chart as well. And what this Google map shows is the headquarters for the Fortune 1000 companies, the top 1,000 companies as defined by Fortune magazine. And you can see it's heavy on the East Coast, a little bit Midwest there, up in Michigan, Wisconsin, and then we have California. But this by no means should say to you, well, I don't have a top 1,000 company in my city or state for that matter, poor South Dakota and Wyoming, Montana, they don't have anybody. But that doesn't mean that you can't host interns. And remember, the definition here for interns goes much broader than just thinking about a traditional intern that may be going to get coffee or taking the notes during the meetings, right? So this can be research assistants that are working for your institution or surrounding institutions. Maybe you're in an area that has 5 or 6 different schools or colleges within a 5-mile radius. You know, Boston has 50 or 60 different institutions within Suffolk County and some of the other surrounding counties there. So there's lots of opportunities to bring in interns, whether they be research assistants, interns, individuals completing clerkships for law firms, or some of those other ones that I had touched upon earlier. Now, again, looking at this map, don't let it deter you if your area doesn't have any of these top headquarters, because all of these headquarters have satellite offices in various states and will bring interns to different locations across the country. I know we were going to have someone from Canada on here as well, and there's plenty of opportunities there up in Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto, Ottawa. So again, I share this for reference so that you can get a baseline of kind of how you go out there and start to look. All right, so I told you all I would cover a hypothetical institution and what we do to attract our intern housing participants. And so I'm going to cover 3 parts of the sales funnel here. I'm going to cover awareness, the intention, and conversion parts of the funnel. You may know them as different pieces. This is just how I know them. And so covering that, if no one knows you exist, how are they going to find you? right? So Mayor Suarez of the city of Miami, he is our intern housing marketing coordinator in this hypothetical institution. So what did he do? He came up with this great plan to put up a billboard in San Francisco that says, thinking about moving to Miami, DM me. And this is a real tweet. This is a real billboard. And so what did Mayor Suarez do? He had to build awareness around why companies or interns or employees should come to South Florida. And so building that awareness means people know that Miami exists as a city. People know that there's great opportunities here. But do they know that it's business friendly in terms of there aren't any state taxes, there aren't any state income taxes, I should say, lower state payroll taxes, all the stuff that a business would be looking for. So he went out and put up these billboards all over the place. This one happens to be San Francisco. And what happened? It started a flurry of conversation around, is Miami the next tech hub? Is Miami the next Silicon Valley? Is Miami the next San Francisco? And so that was his goal, was to make Miami and South Florida a great area to bring business, to bring companies, and to bring families. So how does that relate to intern housing? Think about what it is you provide. Could be apartment style housing, could be community style, suite style with a kitchenette. Just think about what it is you provide, right? Where do you provide? Not only the state and the city, and obviously your campus, but where on campus? Is it close to rail lines? Is it close to bus? How far away is the airport? How far away is the business district for your area? Who are you going to provide it for? Is it students that are currently enrolled at colleges and universities, or are you going to open it up for recent graduates? Because again, growing number of students are taking a gap year after they graduate to help figure out what it is that they want to do for their careers. Some of them are going into managerial preparation programs like Macy's and Nordstrom's offer that are for recent graduates, but it's still considered an internship. So are you going to allow those individuals to stay with you, or are you going to say, no, I'm sorry, you got to find an apartment complex off campus or find another solution? So knowing who it is you're going to provide it for makes a big difference as well. And then your costs, right? What does it cost to run your program? And how much of a per night basis is profit, right? That's your value difference, okay? So how do you put this into action? Well, you could go big and bold like Mayor Suarez here did and put out that billboard in other cities. But I don't think we're all at that level yet. So what this means is updating your website, targeting ads for employers and individuals in your area. A lot of times, folks that run intern housing want to go for the big fish and focus their efforts on solely the local businesses in the area. So if you have accounting firms that hire 20, 30, 40 interns each year or each summer, or let's say Home Depot or Coca-Cola, if you're in the Atlanta area, they generally will do a bulk contract and will sign for all of their interns to stay together. But I'll be honest, that's not commonplace. A lot of the employers will want to maybe recommend a location for their interns that are working with them each year, but they're not very likely to sign a long-term agreement or even a one summer agreement for the entire group. The group may consist of local individuals, individuals that have family in the area. And so they may want to stay with those folks. So the company doesn't want to pay for anything that it doesn't have to. So make sure when you're putting together your ads for your awareness campaign, that you focus not only on the businesses, but also the individuals. And those two things will look different. You're not going to write an ad for an individual that says, do you hire interns? You're going to write that for your employers. Your individual ad may say, interning in X city, stay with us or join us. And again, social media is ever present. So making sure that you have a LinkedIn page for your intern housing program, you have an Instagram, Snapchat, and more TikTok is becoming more relevant in terms of the business world. But I didn't put it on here because it's not really advertising based, and it's probably not the best spot to put your efforts in right now. The one I would say that you absolutely want to put effort into is sending letters to career centers across the country. And this could be a blanket letter, could be an email. I still like to send the written letter so that they have my signature there, but I follow up with an email. And the reason why I send these letters to career centers is to let the employee relations and employer relations staff at each career center know that, hey, we as the University of Miami offer intern housing. So if your students in Jacksonville or Atlanta or Chicago are coming to Miami for their internship, they can stay with us. And it builds that rapport between our two institutions to say, oh yeah, I remember getting this letter. They offer this. And then those career centers tell their students, check this out. It's similar to the housing that we have here. So if you live on campus, you understand a little bit of what you're going to get. Although the look and the feel may be a little bit different, you should expect similar experiences, which then starts to meet Maslow's hierarchy of needs with safety and security, and you start working your way up. Although now the bottom bar is really Wi-Fi, it's not even safety and security. So with that, let's start talking about intention. So I showed you the billboard that Mayor Suarez put out to start attracting the businesses to the Miami area. And I'm sorry, our air conditioner is making a squealing noise. So if you hear something, it's not your ears, it's our air conditioner. So Mayor Suarez, he actually walked the walk. He didn't just put up a billboard and then put it out for his staff to manage and start working with different folks, or it wasn't this pie in the sky idea. He actually is walking the walk and inviting all of these companies to come to Miami. And he's hosting what he calls Cafecito Talks. And Cafecito, for those that don't know, it's this little shot of espresso, Cuban espresso. And it is highly sugar. It's almost all sugar, but that'll get you going. And so they're called Cafecito Talks rather than a coffee talk or something like that. So he calls it that. And he's had everyone on this video chat and podcast that he's started. This one happens to be with a company called Red 6. He's had Magic Leap, he's had Microsoft, he's had David Sachs, who's a venture capitalist, and is really bringing a lot of the individuals from Silicon Valley, from Texas, from New York, and showing them around Miami. And he's actually taking them out on tours and doing site visits or FAM tours, if you're familiar with conference site visits and familiarization tours. So he's really leaning in to make these people understand and see he's not just blowing smoke. This isn't just an ad campaign. He's really serious about this. And so this is where we come in to help with that intention and getting people to think about, no, that wasn't just a single ad. We really do want you to stay with us on campus. And so how can you lean in now that they know that you exist, right? What experiences can you provide? More than just housing and a place to put your head at night. So for example, we here at the University of Miami, we take our students snorkeling. We have State Park, John Pennekamp State Park, that's maybe half-hour away. So we'll take them snorkeling one weekend. We'll take them to see the marlins. And usually because our interns are coming from out-of-state areas, we'll try and pick a major team to go see, rather than taking them to go see the Padres. Maybe we wait until the Cubs are in town because we know a lot of our interns are coming from the Chicago area. So we tailor these experiences to really highlight the fact that we're not just trying to get their business and take their money. We're really into it to help them experience what it is to Miami, that what it means to stay in Miami, in South Florida, and show that intent, right? So explaining why they should stay with you and helping them understand the benefits. So from a business standpoint, this could be setting up meetings with local business collections. So that would be your Chamber of Commerce, local tech hubs. Those are becoming more prominent across the country. Community offices, whether that be political offices, so the city hall, or community outreach centers, research organizations, anything along those lines that can not only build that awareness, but show that you're willing to have a partnership with everyone as well. And then now that we're all on Zoom and running information sessions virtually now, we should have this as our expertise, but you can hold information sessions for individuals that are thinking about coming to your area for an internship. And that could be working with those businesses to identify who they've hired for interns and offering it as a service so that while they may not be particularly thinking about your institution at that moment in time, they're learning what it means to intern in San Diego or in LA. What's around certain areas? What are the different neighborhoods? What do they look like? So for Miami, South Beach is pretty common for people to think in Miami and hold those two side by side. But to get to South Beach, that's a 45-minute drive with traffic. So you're not going to stay on South Beach and come to Coral Gables for work. It's just not going to happen. You'll be late every day. You'll be spending half your day in traffic. It's not going to be a great experience. So helping individuals understand what it is that's in your area, what's around them, and kind of helping them understand, okay, if you're interning here, you want to stay up in this area. If you're interning here, over here is a little better. And what are the differences in each area? What does each area provide? Do you have an arts district? Do you have a more trendy area? Do you have one that's more parks? So for somebody that may be working with Parks and Recreation, or working with local transit, you can kind of get the idea of this is that next level of, okay, now they know you exist. Now you're trying to build up that out of office experience and get them to see themselves not only in your city, in your area, but helping them see themselves at your institution and trying to paint that picture. Again, just to reiterate, don't just go for the big fish. So whatever the biggest company is in your area, you know, sure, you could land them and you can have your entire marketing and sales plan wrapped up with one meeting, but the likelihood of that is not very high, right? So you want to diversify. Think of this as stock market and buying stocks. You want to diversify what you're going after so that every city has a law firm, every city has hospitals, every city has schools in the area. All of those places look for interns and look for individuals to come help them seasonally. And colleges usually, and college students are usually the ones filling those roles. So spread out, diversify, and start thinking about different areas that you can target. Now, that billboard went up, I think in March, and Mayor Suarez made a huge splash. It was talk of all the news, but did he really convert anybody, or was it just that publicity stunt? Well, on the 8th, Microsoft has signed a 50,000 square foot office in downtown Miami. They're not the only ones. The Silicon Valley Bank just announced that they are going to open a branch here. We have about 4 or 5 different venture capital firms moving to Miami. And that's not to mention all the smaller, newer tech companies that have moved to the area in the past 3 months or so as well. So I'd say his billboard worked. His sales funnel from awareness to intent to conversion is definitely working. So let's talk about how we can do a little bit of that, right? Now, to get them to sign up, it's got to be easy. You got to build the bridge, you got to remove the stops, and you got to have those answers ready to go, right? So a lot of times when we're doing sales, it's, yeah, but this, or, but I have a problem with that, right? So how do you remove those stops? If someone starts an application on your website, or if after this you join Intern Housing Hub and they start a process on there, call them, find out, hey, we noticed you started the application. Is there anything that we can help you out with? Usually what happens is the student will say, oh yeah, I'm just waiting on my transcript to come in. Or, oh yeah, I'm just waiting on the signed offer letter from my employer. Okay, perfect. Well, email it to me when you get it and I'll upload it to your application for you so that you can continue along without issue, right? You want to make it easy for them to stay with you. If you make it hard, they're just going to go somewhere else. Their students will take the path of least resistance, just like water, right? Water doesn't flow downhill, it flows down until it meets resistance and then it goes sideways, right? So if there are other institutions in your geographical area that also offer intern housing, you bet if they are getting more applicants than you, the process may be easier. May not be that they offer better solutions or a better product, could be the case, but it's more likely that their process is just easier, right? So you want to make it easy. Your application should be simple to fill out. Make sure all your links work. All of the upload buttons have their functions, right? So don't just put upload a PDF only. Take a PDF, take a Word document, take a PowerPoint file, take a Keynote file, take an audio file. I mean, whatever you need to do to make it easy for them to stay with you. And then work with their dates. We often get ourselves into this mindset of we open on Sunday, May 15th or whatever it is, and we close on Saturday, August 1st. Well, why? You know, it's okay to have those dates publicized so that the general consensus is, okay, I got to stay between this date and this date. But if you can take someone a day earlier, or you could take someone a day later, do it. Make that accommodation, because otherwise they'll just go down the road and you lose 12 weeks rather than just helping someone with one day, right? A lot of times we get into, well, we got to turn over the rooms, or facilities needs a room so that they can do this, this, and this. Well, yeah, but if that intern isn't coming for a week or two on the front end, facilities can go in there before and do all what they need to do. So remove those stops, answer those but questions, turn them into ands, and then help them out. Make it easy and work with their dates. So when we think about everything that we talked about, thinking about awareness and intention and conversion, I share the story of what Mayor Suarez has done from an example of what you can do for your particular area. Now, your mayor may be doing something completely different, but the idea is the same, right? You have to build awareness so that, one, people know you exist. If you offer this great program, but nobody knows you offer it, you can't have anybody stay with you, right? And then once you build that awareness of the program, you got to build the intention. So now what I'm going to have to do over the course of the next 6 months is rebuild that intention piece and the awareness, because the people that stayed with us before may have moved on, may have graduated, and the companies that we worked with, people may be working for another company, which is both good and bad. So I have to work on the awareness and the intention piece. But once you build that intention and show people this is what it's like to stay with us, the conversion piece should be easy. Again, making it easy so that you can sign people, get them booked, work with their dates, and then the conversion turns into referrals. And hopefully, if you provide the interns with a great experience, they make some friends, they learn something along the way, they're going to refer the next class of interns that are interning with that company or staying with that office or whatever to stay with your institution. And then the cycle starts over. So don't forget the story of Mayor Suarez here, where it starts with a billboard and it ends with arguably I think Microsoft is the third richest company right now, signing 50,000 square feet of space to Miami within a 6-month period. So it can be done. And we can certainly help you along those ways with doing that. And, you know, I know Corey's going to talk a little bit about intern housing hub, what it can provide, what the company provides. But know that, your peers are here too, to help answer questions. I don't really look at any other intern housing program as a competitor. I don't think you should either, because at the end of the day, we are here trying to help students have the best experience that they can. And whether that's with, me at the University of Miami or with my neighbors over at Florida International University, hey, whatever the student wants to do at the end of the day and works best for them is going to work best for them. So that's my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all got something out of it. Yeah, let's see if we have any questions.
Awesome stuff, Richie. I'm going to keep an eye. Oh, we just got one. Do you require individual insurance at all?
So, Hannah, that's another good question there. What we do require is that individuals have health insurance. We don't ask them to provide a copy of that. We just ask that they have individual health insurance. But along that same lines, a lot of institutions will ask, well, how do you know that they're not going to cause issues, or that the students won't cause issues? And I say, well, our students cause issues, but we still house them. We don't kick them out. And so, with that, yes, we ask that they have the insurance. We ask that they, are not on disciplinary probation or anything like that with their institution. But for the most part, we have to trust that these are the right individuals that are coming to stay with us. If we do have any issues along those lines, it is more of a renter or a lease agreement. So there's a little bit more flexibility there. But to all that to say, yeah, we do ask that they have it, but we don't require proof. Let's see, Megan, how will you handle potential COVID quarantine should an intern get sick? That's another good question. I think that fortunately or unfortunately, COVID is here to stay for a long time. And it's going to be one of those pieces that we work with as it comes along. Right now, we have robust testing facilities on campus. Being in a major city, we still have some state-run testing sites around our campus that individuals can go to. But if somebody needed to quarantine, we would work with them to get them into the proper space so that they can isolate and be by themselves. And then we would also work with them to get their meals taken care of. Now, that may have a cost for the individual, depending on what that looks like. But we're not just going to put them to the street or say, you got to go find a hotel. So we're lucky that we have a little bit of flexibility during summer to move individuals around to different room types if we need to, so that we can quarantine or we can isolate as necessary. And Joellen asking if we offer a minimum number of nights. We typically ask for 2-month minimum, but some internships could be 5 weeks long. And do we charge a monthly or a daily fee? So I used to require a 2-week minimum. However, what I found was no one was looking for, well, I shouldn't say, the majority of individuals were looking for more than that 10-week, that 11-week period. So that wasn't the problem. Where we found some issues was that it didn't quite fit as a conference, and they weren't quite interns. So our minimum kind of changed a little bit into a 7-night minimum, where those individuals they were on a program, but it wasn't really a camp or conference we were working with, so it got a little funny. But we decided to host them and help them out because they were college students. They met technically the definitions of an intern without being hired by an employer. So we helped them out. And then in terms of a monthly rate or a daily rate, we currently offer a daily rate. But whether you all offer daily, weekly, monthly, I think that's more of a business decision for you all. Some individuals like the monthly, but then what do you do if it's 28 nights and not 30, or it's not 31? Do you refund the 3 days? Sometimes that adds a little question. We looked at a weekly rate, and then defining, a week is equal to this. It's more of a business decision in a lot of ways. For us, it was just easier to do the nightly or the daily rate, because we could easily say, no, you stayed this many nights, this is your rate. And I see Bill asked, do we require full payment in advance? Yes. Yes, we do. So we take a deposit upon the submission of the application. It's 25%. And for us, our average revenue per intern is around $2,000 per intern. And so 25% of that, it's about $500, or it is $500. And then we just require the remainder prior to their move-in. Now, individuals that say they can't afford it or need some sort of payment plan, we will work with them to develop what that plan looks like. And me coming from a student affairs background, I put it back on the individual and saying, okay, what do you propose for your payment plan? Because then you can see what they're willing to do. And in the years we were running the program prior to COVID, I have only had one individual skip out on paying us the final amount. So, there's always that fear of are students going to pay, or are they going to pay? And I found, yes, they do.
Richie, can I follow up to that question?
Yeah.
This is something that I've been asked before. Do you mind sharing what payment methods you accept?
Yes. So currently, we accept credit cards, or a ACH, which is an automated clearinghouse for checking accounts. But those are the only two that we accept at this point. And we've thought about adding checks on site and other things, but then what happens if it bounces, or our cashier's office tends to get a little confused when we say this is for housing, and then they put it in the wrong account. We have also tried to look at how we can add the intern housing fees or the costs onto a University of Miami student's account balance, so that they don't have to come up with the money up front, but maybe they have a scholarship or a balance that they could use towards this program. So ultimately our institution said, no, that they're separate, let's keep them separate. But if your institution can find out or figure out a way to do that. I encourage looking at different options. At some point, maybe we'll accept Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything else, but at this point, we're stuck with credit cards, debit cards, and ACH transfers.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and I see another question here. Does this seem to be a feasible program in housing that does not include kitchen options? Yes, I cannot emphasize enough. Yes, yes, yes. You do not need apartment style. You do not need a kitchenette to attract interns to stay with you. In fact, we found quite the opposite, that these individuals aren't interested in having a kitchenette or a meal plan per se, because they're off at the office all day. A lot of these individuals are working 8:30 to 5, 9 to 6. And so those traditional meal hours where college students don't tend to eat breakfast anyways, are missing breakfast. Lunch is possibly provided by their employer or their office, or they're going somewhere nearby. And then dinner, they can be hanging out with the other interns, the other individuals from their program. And so they're not always really looking for that kitchen or that meal plan option. So don't let that be the deter or the deterrent from hosting an intern program. Bill Blanchfield here. Do you host many of your own students? If so, do you offer the option for them to stay to the start of the fall semester? That's a wonderful question, Bill. Yes, we do. We have a partnership with our Office of Research Administration, which I would encourage all of you to work on and develop, because there are grants that faculty are receiving all the time to host different students, and a lot of times it will be your institution students that get that opportunity. And so we do provide the students that stay with us, that are our students, the ability to carry over. We call it intercession. So if they live with us in the spring, we give them the ability to stay from spring into their summer assignment, and then same with the fall. If they're moving off campus or moving from off campus to campus, then we still work with them, but it may be on a different timeline. But again, I think the key is flexibility and making it easy to work with the individuals.
And can I just add to that, Richie, because I, speaking with some clients that we work with at Intern Housing Hub, there are a few that actually will, allow earlier move in or check out too. I know that's kind of your question with the fall semester, but earlier check in too, instead of, maybe having to wait until commencement and having that period to kind of get ready for the summer season, just letting that student just move directly into their room after a nice cleaning and stay a little bit earlier.
Yep, exactly. And I see here, have we experienced any problems or benefits with enrolled students versus non-students? No, we haven't seen either. And I liken it to the idea of that with conference guests and adult-based programs, those aren't enrolled students. And typically they don't have any issues or cause any issues. So, I would be in favor of expanding a program beyond just enrolled students to any individual that's completing an internship. But I don't think it can be as broad as any individual. I think there's got to be some cap on it. because otherwise, how do you know what they're actually staying for? So, and lastly here, how do we know that we're accepting the right interns or guests? And does our application include questions, requirements that help screen? So one of our requirements is that you submit your offer letter, that you are completing an internship with a company in the area. And that helps us screen, along with receiving a copy of the individual's transcript, so that we could see, okay, are they enrolled? Are there any holds on their transcript from their dean of students office or anything like that? That typically helps us screen pretty nicely. And then, in the years that I've been doing this, I've had a couple individuals that I've had to just say this isn't the right fit. But that's because they were many years out of school, restarting their lives down here in Miami, and weren't really looking at intern housing. They were just looking at short-term housing. So it wasn't a good fit for us or them, but wasn't really any issues there.
Well, I think that's all I'm seeing in terms of questions right now, Richie. I really appreciate your willingness to share your expertise. I know that typically with these sessions, we get a good mix of folks who are, doing their own programs, starting their own programs, or imagining what a program might look like. So having your expertise, your being kind of like a veteran of the intern housing programs, it's always awesome to hear your thoughts and hear how people can pick your brain. You only have one. Sorry, I'll give you more credit. Your brain's so big, I often forget you only have one.